You've been told to accept impermanence, to let go, move on, make peace with loss. But here's what that advice gets wrong. Acceptance isn't about erasing the ache of what's missing. Forcing yourself to let go just adds a second layer of suffering on top of the first. The Buddha never said pretend the crack isn't there. He taught something quieter, that the crack itself is where wholeness lives. Today, I want to share that teaching with you. An autumn night. The air is clear and the moon is easy to find. The wind moves through the rice fields, rippling across the golden stalks. Harvest is almost here. On a low hill at the edge of a village, the Buddha sat with his disciples, all of them quietly watching the world settle into itself. Someone looked up. Tonight's moon was full and heavy, its light spreading soft and even across everything below. The disciples sat without speaking. Crickets called from somewhere in the dark. The breeze carried just a hint of cool, enough to know that summer had finally, quietly begun to leave. It was a night when something felt full, and yet it was also a night when something was coming to an end. One of the disciples, without thinking, reached out and touched a single stalk of rice beside him, felt its weight, the grain swollen and ready. His hand stayed there a moment, then slowly withdrew. The Buddha noticed, but said nothing. He only looked out across the field, where the moonlight made the whole harvest seem, for just that moment, like something that had always been there and always would be. That night, one of the disciples looked up at the sky and said softly, "Teacher, tonight's moon is truly beautiful. Just looking at it, I feel something fill inside me." The Buddha nodded gently, but then the disciple continued, "And yet by tomorrow, it will begin to fade. The moment it reaches fullness, it starts to disappear. When I think about that, this beauty becomes a little sad." The Buddha was quiet for a moment. Only the sound of the wind in the trees moved through the space between them. The disciple went on, "I have been practicing for a long time. Sometimes I feel as though I am close to something, close to grasping it, but each time something falls away again. I fill, and then I empty. I reach, and then I lose my footing. When will I ever truly feel complete?" The Buddha looked slowly up at the moon. Then he spoke. "You say you are looking at the moon, but what exactly are you seeing?" The disciple was uncertain. "I am looking at the moon." "Then let me ask you this," the Buddha said. "Do you know from which moment did that moon begin to wane?" The disciple studied the sky. "From the night it became full, I suppose." "Yes," said the Buddha, "the very moment it reaches fullness, it begins to change. But tell me, does that make the fading moon ugly to you?" "No, a crescent, a half moon, each one is beautiful in its own way." "Then why," the Buddha asked quietly, "do you seek only fullness?" The disciple had no answer. The Buddha continued, "The moon fills in order to fade. It fades in order to fill again. Every shape it takes is the moon's true face. A waning moon is not incomplete. A full moon is not the only real one. On every night the moon is, exactly and completely, the moon of that night." The disciple was silent for a long while. Then softly, "Then my practice too. These stretches where I feel like I'm losing ground, these are also part of what practice looks like." The Buddha spoke gently. "Look at the rice in the fields. A seed buries itself in the dark earth, then pushes up a shoot, grows a stalk, and in time bears grain. But do you know why the rice bends its head? Because it has grown heavy? Yes, the more it ripens, the lower it bows. That weight is proof of everything it has gathered. And bowing, that is not weakness. That is what a harvest looks like." For a long time the disciple sat with his eyes on the moon. The wind came through, the rice fields whispered. The Buddha said nothing more. That night the disciple stayed until the moon had shifted in the sky. He watched it move, and for the first time he did not feel sad watching it fade. It was simply the moon of that night, and it was completely beautiful. The next morning he came to the Buddha and said, "Teacher, last night for the first time I stayed until the end. I watched the moon all the way through its fading, and strangely, it didn't hurt." "When you first looked up at the moon," he said at last, "you were watching for fullness, but last night you watched the moon itself." The disciple stood quietly, feeling the morning air on his face. He did not ask anything more. From somewhere in the distance, a bird called once, then fell silent. The disciple noticed how naturally that silence settled, how it asked nothing of him, and how, without thinking, he gave nothing back. There is something quietly important living inside this story. The disciple's sadness, that feeling of I was almost full, and then it slipped away again, runs deeper than moon watching. Most of us know that feeling from somewhere much closer to home. In Buddhism, this particular kind of suffering is connected to what is called impermanence, the truth that everything changes. That isn't a complicated idea. It simply means nothing stays the same shape. Not joy, not grief, not the person you are today, not the people you love, not even an autumn moon. But here's where it's worth pausing. Is it the changing itself that hurts us? Or is it the part of us that says, this must not change, this should stay, I need this to remain exactly as it is? Is that what creates the suffering? The moon doesn't cause pain by fading. What hurts is the demand we place on it. Stay full. The rice doesn't become weak when it bends. What distorts our seeing is the belief that it should stand straight. This is the shape of suffering. Not change, but our resistance to it. The longing for something permanent in a world that was never built to stand still. The Buddha used the moon to show us something about how we see. If you only call the full moon beautiful, then every phase after that becomes a kind of loss, something being taken. But if you can see that waxing and waning are both the moon's true face, then the moon stops being something you're losing. It becomes something that's always, in its own way, arriving. This isn't just a change in words, it's a change in the way the world looks. And there's one more thing worth sitting with. What does it mean to ripen? Most of us have been taught that ripening means achieving something, gaining something, finally feeling full. But the image the Buddha offered was different. The rice bows because it is heavy with what it has grown. That weight is not a burden to hide, it is the quiet evidence of everything accumulated over time. Ripening in this sense is not about how much you have to show. It's about being able to hold, gently without flinching, everything you have lived. When you feel I'm still not enough, consider this. Maybe nothing is missing. Maybe what you have lived is already there, already real. And it's simply the expectation of what fullness is supposed to look like that's keeping you from seeing it. Buddhism at its heart is the slow practice of learning to see again, to look at a waning moon and find it beautiful. That shift in sight, that is what awakening means. A woman once told a teacher that she had wasted her 30s, too much fear, too many wrong turns, years she could not get back. He listened, and then he asked her, "What did all that fear teach you?" She was quiet for a long time. Finally she said, "To be gentle with people who are afraid." He nodded. It ripened into something you can give. She had come expecting consolation. She left carrying something she hadn't known she needed. Not the erasure of her lost years, but a way of holding them that didn't require her to look away. That is the practice. Not to make the painful parts disappear, but to stay close enough to them, long enough, that they slowly reveal what they were growing into all along. So how does this actually show up in the life we're already living? Think about work. Somewhere there's a person who spent years building something. They started out uncertain, made plenty of mistakes, and slowly found their footing. Eventually, colleagues began to come to them. They felt, for the first time, like someone who knew what they were doing. And then things shifted. New systems came in. The way they'd always worked stopped fitting the moment they were in. Knowledge they'd spent years gathering started to feel outdated. What felt like solid ground yesterday became uncertain today. The suffering that comes with that, where does it actually come from? From the change itself? Or from the image they'd quietly built of who they were supposed to be in that place? And the shock of watching it become unrecognizable. The moon changes. The seasons turn. Rice ripens, gets harvested, and returns to the earth. That isn't the rice failing. It's the rice completing one turn of its cycle, so the next one can begin. What you've built over years doesn't vanish when things change around it. It transforms, quietly, often invisibly, into the foundation for whatever comes next. Now think about the people we love. A friendship that used to feel effortless now requires more tending. A child who once needed everything from you has grown into someone who needs something different. A relationship that felt new and certain now carries the weight of real time. When that happens, many of us reach for the past. It used to be easier. Can we go back to how it was? But it's worth sitting with an honest question here. When you ache for how it used to be, is it really the other person you're missing? Or is it some version of yourself, the one who existed inside that earlier moment that you're grieving? Buddhism asks us to look at this directly. Hidden inside, "I don't want this to change," is often, "I don't want to change." We reach into relationships and try to hold them still, as if freezing the form could protect the feeling. But connection doesn't live in a fixed shape. It lives in the moving. It changes and continues and changes again. The richness between people exists inside that movement, not despite it. And then there's the body. Maybe you've noticed it taking longer to recover, or your memory reaching more slowly for the names it used to retrieve easily, or exhaustion that doesn't lift the way it once did. The rice, when it is full of grain, bends. That bending is not collapse. It is the physical truth of everything that has accumulated. Is a bowed head a sign of falling, or of having grown heavy with something real? The same autumn field looks entirely different depending on the eyes that are reading it. The field doesn't change, the seeing does. And so the question isn't whether the body will change. It already is, with or without our consent. The question is whether we meet that change the way we meet an old friend arriving at the door, or the way we meet an intruder. One monk, asked near the end of his life how he felt about his failing eyesight, said simply, "I used to see the mountains, now I feel them." He hadn't lost the mountains, he had grown into a different way of knowing them. There is one small thing you can try today, just one. Tonight, look at the moon. Set your phone down, step outside or open a window, and spend just 1 minute with it. It doesn't matter what shape it's in, full, crescent, half hidden behind clouds, barely there, any of it is fine. Even if you can't see it at all, just notice what the moon is doing tonight, and then quietly say this to yourself: this moon in this shape is complete for tonight. Then turn the same thought toward yourself. What shape are you in right now? Not the shape you wish you were, not the shape you used to be or hope to be, just the shape of today. See if you can hold both, the parts that feel full and the parts that feel like they're still fading, without trying to fix either one. That's all. It's said that the Buddha and his disciples would observe the moon each month as part of their practice, not as ritual, but as a way of learning to feel change rather than just understand it intellectually. Not thinking about impermanence, watching it. There's a difference, and the body knows it. Looking at the moon with intention and looking at it without thinking are not the same thing. That small difference, that tiny shift of attention is the beginning of something. I won't promise that this changes anything, but the person who looks up tonight and the person who doesn't might find themselves standing in a slightly different morning. And that is enough. The moon says nothing. It is simply there, always changing, always present. The moon you see tonight is the same moon that Buddha and his disciples looked up at 2,500 years ago. You are part of that same long looking, and so is everyone else who has ever stepped outside on a quiet night, uncertain about something, and found themselves staring upward without quite knowing why. Some of them were grieving, some were afraid, some were just tired in a way that sleep doesn't fix. This autumn, what has quietly ripened inside you? Not the achievements you could put into words, not the things anyone else would notice. The things that accumulated in the in-between, the weight no one else can see. You don't have to answer right now. Just let the question rest somewhere inside you for a while. Like a seed buried in cold ground, some things need the dark before they can break open. A farmer doesn't dig up the soil every morning to check what's happening beneath. He simply trusts the season and waits. And so did the old woman who sat by the window each October, watching the same maple lose its leaves, not with sadness, but with the quiet recognition of someone who had lost things too and survived them. She never spoke of what had changed in her. She only made tea and let the steam rise, the quiet truth beneath today's harvest season that all things rise and pass. We explored through the lens of falling leaves in a previous teaching. You'll find the link in the description below. The moon fills and fades and fills again. If there's one thing that doesn't change across all of that movement, it is simply this. The moon is there. The shape shifts, but the moon remains. Maybe you are something like that. You have had seasons of fullness, seasons of feeling emptied out, seasons where things accumulated, and seasons where you had to let them go. Days you were proud of who you were, and days you couldn't quite find that person. All of it is yours. All of it is you. Fullness is not the only real version. And the times you felt incomplete, those were never false. The rice in the autumn field bends its head low. It is not ashamed of the weight it carries. It simply holds what it has grown, quietly without apology. If you are bowing under something right now, that may not be weakness. Tonight, look up. Whatever shape the moon is in, it is completely itself, the moon of this particular night. And whatever shape you are in today, you are completely here, the you of this particular day. That is enough. It really is. A farmer once said that he could always tell which plants had survived a hard winter. Not because they were taller, but because their roots had gone deeper, looking for what they needed. You have been looking too, through every season that asked something of you. Nothing you found along the way was wasted, and perhaps that is its own kind of fullness. Not the kind that can see from the outside, but the kind that holds when the wind comes. A candle lit in an empty room still lights the room. You have not been burning for nothing. Whose face came to mind while you were listening today? One story a day. In a week your words will change. In a month your eyes will change. In a year the same world will look completely different.